I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 10. So at this point, I'm starting to feel pretty good, right? I have power, I have storage, I have ways of kind of moving around and getting around more efficiently. But there is one thing that I'm sort of missing. Right, that is going to the nether, right? There's a lot of things that we just don't have access to because we're missing blaze rods. Now, going to the nether seems like a pretty normal task, and it definitely can be a pretty normal task. But I do want to make my traversal through the nether much, much better than just going in with a spell book and just going in with bouncy boots. And to make this a little bit easier, I think making a jetpack would be a good idea. And from the looks of it, I think I can use our emerald generator that we set up last episode to actually charge said jetpack. It looks like this slot right here is made specifically for that. Now, crafting the jetpack is a pretty boring task, but I do want to say a few things just to sort of help you out if you are crafting them, just some numbers to keep in your head. For each of these jetpacks, you are going to need 11 basic coils. So it's kind of just best to just go ahead and make your 11 basic coils and then just continue doing that until you move into a different tier. For example, this will take us to wooden, then we have copper, and there's stone. And I think, by the way, some sort of skip. So for example, copper is going to be a direct upgrade, and then you have iron, and then you have gold and diamond, which I do recommend that path, but you also have a stone version, and then you have a bronze version, and so on and so forth. And this operation, by the way, is going to cost a bit of iron. So at this point, I think it would be feasible to go ahead and place some hoppers down, much like this, and we can set up some iron generators. Yes, this will just passively generate iron over time. It's so good. All we need to get these up and running, by the way, are these villagers that we've been breeding up, and it just takes one villager each, and voila. We are now producing unlimited iron that will start to build up here. Well, iron and poppies. And so after a little bit of crafting, here we go. We're about to upgrade this to the gold tier, and I find that the gold tier is a pretty good stopping point. It starts to get a little bit more expensive after the gold tier, and something that we'll definitely be able to get later on. But this is going to be a pretty good medium right here. And can it charge? Oh, it can charge inside this slot. Putting to use our 256, and this means we can also get into the dyer's tools, meaning we can have like a cut paste gadget. Oh, all kinds of fun stuff now that we have charging available. So now with the jetpack on my actual back and inside of my curio slot right here, I put it in the back slot. It looks like the backpack can actually go here. I can now fly around. But you do have to set some keybinds. I have mine set to a mouse key to be able to toggle the engine on and off, which makes it really convenient having it on your mouse so you can quickly turn it on and off. But you might notice that the backpack or the jetpacks can be very fast. Like this seems like overwhelmingly fast. Thankfully, with the irons jetpack mod, we can turn it up and down. And I like to set my throttle level to my up and down arrow keys. And so we can change our throttle to be much, much nicer. So for example, like 80 is a lot better. There's also 60, and then it goes even lower down to 20, which starts to feel a lot better. Now, something you might notice is the jetpack, well, it burns very, very quickly through our stored power. But there is a way that we can actually make a battery pretty early on, and that is through the power mod. And believe it or not, this basic battery, the starter one, is very, very nice. Like it requires dielectric paste, which we can make with lava. And outside of that, nothing else is that expensive. A little bit of iron, and we are ready to go. We're going to have a pretty decent battery right from the start that increases our capacity significantly. And honestly, we could just go up to the basic as well, because this doesn't require any extra moving components. We just need to make the basic capacitor, and then this will store 4 million, increasing our overall capacity by 4 times. So definitely worth, I guess, getting up to the basic. And that bad boy should 100% sustain us into the nether. So now with my battery all charged up, we should be able to shift right click. Yes. And that puts this into its charge mode. And this can go in any curio slot. Perfect. And now we have our jetpack. We have it fully charged up, and we have a battery ready to go. Now the only thing left to do is to actually go into the nether. Now I'm just one step closer to being here, and voila, we now have a nether portal. So what exactly do we need from here? So we need blazes, of course, we need blaze rods, and this is actually going to unlock the ability for us to create a mob farm. And that's pretty darn cool. And I think once you have a mob farm up and running, the mod pack will really start to explode, figuratively and literally. So I think going ahead and jumping in here, making sure I have a waystone, I think we're gonna be just fine. Or so I hope, because you never know what the spawns are gonna look like. And let the lag commence. Wow, that was actually a very nice transition. And we are right in the middle of a region's unexplored redstone biome. This is so pretty looking. I love these dimensions from regions unexplored, and it honestly makes the nether look so good. But I have something that I'm looking for, right? We need to find ourselves, well, a fortress. And thankfully our map really helps with that. And oh my goodness, there's one right here. Like, we are right next to it. Spawned right next to it. Looks like there's a lot of other structures in this dimension as well. Ooh, exploration, I see. So let's make sure our jetpack is on, make sure I hit H to toggle my hover mode, and let's use some of that power. Oh, it's so nice to be able to kind of fly around, even if it's this jetpack flight. All right, I'm here to locate something very specific. We need to find a spawner. Like, that would be the primary thing. But looting this fortress is actually not going to be a bad idea either. Like, there's got to be plenty of loot in here. Oh, look at this. Okay, so yeah, a lot of the stuff that we've actually seen in the overworld we are seeing here. Oh, and I do need to grab a bunch of quartz. But look at that, nether wart. Finding nether wart in a chest. Oh, that's fantastic. Aha, right here is a blaze spawner. Very nice. And I just need to take a few out and get myself a blaze rod. We do need more than one blaze rod, but yeah, I will end up camping this for a while to get these rods. I don't have any looting or anything either, so yeah, I'm just going to be getting one at a time. Since we're over here, I think this will be a great place to put our fort. Perfect. And now we have a waystone to get back and forth here in case we die, or just, you know, whenever we need more blaze rods. By the way, is it just me, or is there something strange feeling about this area? I don't know. It feels kind of I don't know. It's getting some weird feelings over there. I don't know what those are about. It's probably nothing I should be worried about. But what I should be worried about is jumping into this building. Ah, there we go. Okay, the entryway into the fort. It's going to be kind of weird not having create, because create is actually a big part of this. And these doors would normally open with that. Look at that. There's a giant wither in the middle. These are pretty good, right? And since we do have the jetpack, it's going to be pretty easy to navigate this whole thing. Just got to be careful. Oh, there's diamonds. So much gold. So much gold. Wither ribs. And by the way, I'm kind of like avoiding these scrolls. I know a lot of you guys have said, Chosen, why aren't you taking the scrolls? And the reason why I'm kind of avoiding the scrolls is because we can basically craft every single one of these scrolls. Like, there's nothing really preventing us. So whenever we do want to get into them, we can just do that. There's a surprising amount of diamonds in these chests. I'm a little bit overwhelmed here. All right. All right, come after me. There we go. Man, I love this sword. The fact that we're dealing nearly 10 damage per swipe is really cool. So there's a couple of options in this place. Upstairs has some pretty decent loot. And we can always grab more of this stuff, which I'm going to grab all the soul sand I can. But there's also some other stuff. Like, what is this? Is that normal? I've never seen, like, a blackstone area down underneath a table. But yeah, there's an upstairs and there's an entire labyrinth essentially underground here. I will say, though, the upstairs is a little bit more dangerous than everywhere else. I'm just going to be avoiding this. And the loot has never been that great, but I mean, maybe it'll be better. It's the up top area. Oh, goodness. Is where these guys tend to spawn quite a bit because you're just within range of them being able to spawn up here. Whew. But this is typically where the better loot resides. For example, this diamond horse armor. Yeah, this is actually diamonds in the salvaging table. 6 of them to be exact. So yeah, this whole part is kind of the boring part. The real fun happens underneath. And we have to find one of the stairwells that lead down. Aha, right here, for example. And when I say down, this goes way, way down. It just keeps going. I feel like I've been doing this for like 5 minutes now. Oh, finally. Okay, so here we are. And these are going to have much better chests in them. Well, I thought so, but it's going to have kind of better chests. But there are some secret rooms that we can find. I want to grab all of the glowstone that I can find along the paths. Yeah, there's like a lot of hidden rooms, a lot of this. Look at that. Okay, so here we go. So much, much better here. So everything from magma cream to gold to diamonds. We can also find a bunch of stuff just like kind of littered about. Gold ingots, even some enchanted books, it looks like. And books and quills. I'll definitely take those too. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things just kind of sprawled about through the underground, but most of the loot is going to be pretty normal. And I think at this point, we've basically gotten everything we really need. We just need to go grab more quartz. And so I just need to grab a little bit more of this, and we can actually head back and work on the main focus of today. And believe it or not, that's actually setting up that mob farm I was talking about. Now, after making it back to the base, I've started to expand a little bit. I added some stairways that lead down into another platform. And this is where I actually plan on having the mob farm, like right in here. I think this is going to be a great place to have it nice tucked in away. And this little base that I'm building right here is honestly just for the start of the game. Because eventually I do want to build a actual functioning base somewhere else. There's just honestly not going to be enough room on this little bitty island here for the full playthrough. Now you may be wondering, Chosen, how in the world are you going to fit a mob farm in this tiny little space? And to that, oh, you have no idea. Because I'm about to show you the best 3x3 mob farm that you could possibly make. And it's going to be incredibly fast. Now, the mod that's going to make this all possible is going to be mob grinding utils. But there's actually some tips that you may not actually know about mob grinding utils. For one of them, to get started with this mod really easily, get yourself an XP drain singularity. This right here is the way to get started with mob grinding utils. Because once you have this, you can place it down and you can stand on it. And this is going to start to fill with some experience. And this is actually what you need. You need the couple of buckets of the XP, right? That's being drained from your player. And not only is that, like, it's being able to be stored, right? It's also saving your XP, which is a good use for it. But it is going to be needed to be able to make the dreadful dirt. The dreadful dirt allows hostile mobs to spawn when it's in a dark area, and it can be tick accelerated by giving it a redstone signal. You can basically flip the redstone signal from on and off, and it's going to cause the mobs to spawn faster. And this is going to be a feature that I'm going to utilize. Now, to make the dreadful dirt, you need yourself a rotten egg. And to get the rotten egg, well, you need to sacrifice a chicken with some GM feed cursed. Yes, this stuff right here. And it's actually pretty easy to get this. You just need some seeds, a couple of mob drops, which you should have gotten by this point, and you need 4 buckets of XP. And how do you get those 4 buckets of XP? Well, we're looking at it. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering how to get your XP back out of here, well, an XP tap is going to be your friend. So now I'm just going to gather up my 4 buckets of XP, and let's go sacrifice a chicken. By the way, as always, no chickens are harmed in the making of this, never mind. So now let's talk about the outline of the mob farm. So I have a mob farm that is going to be 3 blocks tall at least, so that way Enderman can also spawn in here. And I'm going to be doing this off of a 3x3 platform, like I said. So we have 3 blocks of dirt that are essentially going to be right here in the center. And then I want to leave an outer edge. This is important so you don't end up with slime like spawning right on the outer edge and then dipping out, which is kind of an issue with the cursed dirt. So by leaving a border gap like that, you kind of guarantee. So yes, technically this is a 5x5, and you could make this a single block if you really wanted to, but this size farm is perfect. And this is just enough spawning material. And you're going to notice there's going to be a lot of mob spawning. Now, I also recommend using tinted glass to make sure it is nice and dark inside of here. And I've kind of optimized this a little bit so that way I don't have to make a ton of this glass, because I have these pillars that are going to basically be support beams for this. So it does save me a little bit of room, but yes, I do like to be able to see into the mob farms. And this is something that allows me to see into it, but also not let light in. But speaking of light, we can actually turn this farm on and off by placing something like you see above me, a beautiful redstone lamp. And above there, I can just toggle that on with a lever. Now, the main thing that makes all of this work is going to be the mob masher. We're going to need one of those as well. And this is why having like a early intermittent storage is really nice, right? Because handcrafting all of this out of a chest is just a pain. Now, some other honorable mentions that we're going to need for this farm to be really functional is going to be an ender inhibitor, which is going to help prevent endermen from teleporting out of our mob farm, which can become quite a problem. And then we also want an absorption hopper. This is like one of the easiest like ways of collecting your mob drops and experience. And then we want a jumbo tank to store the experience. For now, it's going to store a ton of experience for us. And then we're also going to want a place to store the mob drops, which is going to be a spruce barrel, or not just any sophisticated storage barrel. And then we're going to want an advanced void upgrade. This is going to be super helpful for making sure we just completely void all of those nasty unwanted items. Now, I also need to mention this, mob fans. So mob fans are going to be what we're going to use to move our mobs around. So if we place a fan right here, we can actually see the area. And by default, this is not enough, but we're going to augment this fan here in a second. But these fans are going to be more than fine. So the fans that are on the side are going to try and push everything right to this block that I'm standing on right here. And the thing that's going to be in that spot is going to be this really nasty looking device called the Mob Masher. And this thing is going to spin up whenever we give it a redstone signal. I recommend placing your levers, for example, on the outside of your farm, because you don't want to be placing your levers on the inside of your farm because you won't be able to get inside. So yeah, don't do this. But back to augmenting this, I can put the fan upgrade in, and voila, we now have a much larger area, and it really only needs big enough to cover this space. Yes, mobs might actually spawn on the side here potentially, but they'll eventually wander into this anyways. So now for the fun part. Up top, I have myself a lever, and that lever can light this block up just like this. And with that lit up, we shouldn't have to worry about mob spawning, but I can go ahead and convert this spot into dreadful dirt. So the dreadful dirt shouldn't spawn anything just yet, and for good reason, because it would cause an absolute mess. But this right here, the Mob Masher, we should be able to turn on, and all of our fans. And with that done, the interior section of this mob farm is basically done. Now the outside is actually quite simple. We just need to place ourselves an ender inhibitor. That's typically where I like to put it. And then directly in front of the farm, I like to place down my absorption hopper. And this is where we can define our area. And I like to scoot this back. I like to step back and kind of find out what is moving what. And you can kind of see the outer bounding box getting moved a little bit. And just right there, I think is a perfect spot. We could technically move it back, I think, a little bit. That wouldn't honestly hurt anything. Just making sure that the area that it exists in is, yeah, not going to be like randomly sucking in our items that we randomly drop outside of this area. Now on the south side, I'm going to place down my tank, and then on this side, I'm going to place my beautiful barrel. So if the south is going to be fluid, then we want to make sure that's set to fluid. And then if this side is going to be north, we want to make sure that north is set to item. And that's basically it, right? We can go ahead and put our void upgrade in here, and we'll modify this in a second. But yeah, we can basically turn the mob farm on. And so let's flip all of the levers just like this, and we can turn the Mob Masher on and turn off the other light. Perfect. So as soon as we turn this light off, technically, we should start to get mob spawns before long. But something you might notice, it's very slow. There's not a lot of mob spawning. It's not very fast. Like one at a time, meh, that's rookie numbers. So how can I speed this up? Well, as I mentioned, you can actually redstone pulse the dirt, and that makes this go really fast. So now when it comes to making a redstone clock, one of the best ones so far is going to be, and the cheapest, is going to be the redstone clock from Utilitarian. And this, you can right click to change its frequency. And notice, by the way, I put a redstone torch in here because if you use regular redstone, the pulsing may burn out, and you notice that this right here just stopped working. But if you use a torch on the side, it actually doesn't do that. So if we take this all the way up, the lowest we can get this is at a 5, and that is plenty fast enough. Now for sending redstone signal upside down on the underside of a block, there's actually a way we can do that with the redstone pin mod. This is a pretty cool little mod, and all we have to do is basically go underneath here, and we find our platforms, and we just need to draw the redstone out like this onto here. Now we do want to avoid this spot right here specifically, so I think if I just don't give this particular block, actually, I might be able to break that. There we go. So yeah, this allows me to separate very specific sides like this. That is so cool. There we go. And I just need to continue adding on, and I can fill this entire area with redstone. And to me, that looks pretty darn cool. So now I should be able to set my redstone clock up. And by default, this, I don't think will interact with this very well. Yeah, it's going to do the same thing with the redstone, which is a bit of a problem, right? So instead, like I had said, instead of using like solid redstone on this, we can actually just use a redstone torch. So I'm going to break this area, and by placing a torch, this works so much better. And by the way, this is fully pulsing this. And if we get this down to that lower setting, by shifting, there we go, to 5, this is going to pulse incredibly fast. And we're going to see mobs spawning at a significantly accelerated rate. And this is where I'm going to say the mob sounds are absolutely awful. But you can temporarily disable your mob sounds, and you can go into this menu right here and set yourself an anchor to just make your life a lot easier. And you can search for death and hurt sounds and just mute them, right? We can edit the anchor, we make sure that's accepted, and we're good to go. Just start muffling everything death related. And also hurt. And you definitely want to get rid of the drinking sound. It's so bad. And with that done, you can kind of breathe a little bit easier. I can now go into my options sounds, and I can turn my hostile sounds back up. And it's not too bad. Not too bad. If you want to get rid of like the step sounds of certain mobs, that's an option as well. Oh, I almost forgot. The ambient sound and squish are definitely ones that you want to get rid of as well. It's just too much. Honestly, don't know how I lived without this muffler mod like prior. I have no idea. So now with my accelerated mob farm, it's time to start managing the logistics of it. And that's where this advanced void is really gonna help. So what we can do with the advanced void, and by the way, we can add more than one void upgrade in here if we need. I think one of the best things to do early on though, is to set this to match tags. And then what we can do is we can take an item like this, place it in, and then we can add tags. For example, the C armor will do all armor. So any armor that we can get from this, it will just be voided. And if I click this button right here, we can actually destroy these items from within the GUI. So if they already exist, we can just up and void them by reinserting them back in. Some other things like bottles, like we probably don't want to receive potions, so we can just add those tags. There's like bibliocraft potions, which is really nice. That gives us a tag for those potions, and that's perfect. And other things we're probably going to want to void along the way as well. Eventually, we're going to want to get rid of these scrolls because we're going to be getting a lot of scrolls. Now, another thing that's going to help you out tremendously is probably going to be a compacting upgrade. And yeah, once you have the compacting upgrade ready to go, this is going to start automatically compacting the redstone, and I think it'll compact the slime for us, saving us a ton of space. Now, a couple of other things to definitely note. You can make the looting upgrades for the mob masher, giving you even more mob drops as if we weren't getting enough. And then you can also make sure to kill those mobs a bit faster. I recommend putting the sharpness over the smite, but you can definitely put both, I do believe. But definitely get sharpness in there. That is going to make the farm go a bit faster. And so I think today we solved a lot of problems. Essentially, we have solved all of our mob needs. Basically, ender pearls are good to go. We now have a nice supply of redstone. We're also getting glowstone from this, and we also are getting a little bit of iron. But slime, all of these basic components that we're going to need for the future, we now have plentiful amounts of. And I hope you use this farm in your world. If you do, and you set up a mob farm much like this and you decorate it, I would love to see an image of that posted over on the Discord. We do have an image gallery, and you can definitely @ me in that image gallery, letting me know whenever you do post that so I can take a gander at it. I love seeing the creations that you guys make. And so you can find that Discord linked down in the description below, and especially if you've made it this far, might as well also make sure you've clicked that subscribe button and give this video a huge thumbs up. Now, with that being said, I think it's time to wrap up today's episode. And well, it's time to also thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to Ninja Frog over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. And guys, I thank you so very much for watching this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.